it will be imported to the HDFS as a file, HDFS file. Just like as if you are uploading, put the local file to HDFS. Then at the time, in MySQL, transaction may have transaction ID as the primary key 1, 2, 3, and transaction start time and time format and whatever. This will be imported to the HDFS as the comma and new line separate. For each record is a new line, and for each the column or attribute is comma separated. And also they do not care about the format, data type of this one. Okay? So that is the header file. So this is the idea that eventually you can use this data as if you upload the data from local file to header. So you can use the methods programming, or you can use any other interface that we are going to learn next week, Hive or the Piglet. Okay. So this is equal to header. This is very important nowadays in the real header system in industry. So in industry, they already have this kind of system, and they try to get the benefit of the header. So they need to replace entire system. No, they cannot do that. Even header cannot support many of the applications that are currently used in the company. For example, web online transaction, so or search engine or whatever. So they cannot replace it. So they instead they want to keep the current system, and also they try to add a header system. They try to get data from here. At the time, in traditional system, for example, data warehousing, you decide what is data warehousing. So warehouse, right? So storage, big warehouse, like the Costco or the Walmart. So Walmart is Walmart warehouse. I'm not sure. So Costco, right? Just like this, the data warehouse is not well formatted. It's just a big storage for data. But here we are using relational database or similar database model, database system to keep such a big data. So it's a waste of money sometimes. It's just slow. It's not very flexible. So many applicants, many companies, many customers would like to replace this one by the header system. But they want to keep the data source. They don't want to change. Then how to get such a data? So there exists ETL solution. It's of course very expensive. ETL solution from data source to this one. Like a long time ago. Nowadays it's used. It's the mainframe. Mainframe is the IBM big version mainframe. So they are using OS 390 or the different operating system, and they try to transfer such a data into the relational database. So you need to use the MQ, message queue approach. It's kind of queuing of the data. You need to pay, and you should be able to code. So complicated. So at that time you can use this kind of open source. It's definitely open source, so you can use as long as you can use the JDBC. That's the one. Yes.
So Hadoop is just going to be used for storing like a certain table.
It can be by the table. It can transfer by the user, or you can transfer entire database. You can set up the option.
But if you transfer entire database to Hadoop,
yes.
How can you make it? How can you make the relationship between them?
There's no relationship. Okay. Yes. So that's the difference. First, you need to understand that header file is not the database management system. Okay. In MySQL, it's in the follow the relational model. What is a model? Model is the condition, constraint. Okay, you need to follow 40Q. You need to follow primary Q. You need to follow check constraint. You need to follow data type. The name should be like the 30 character and so on. This is the data model. It's not flexible, but this is not. This is just chunk of the data. Okay. So that's one common mistake. Many people believe it's kind of database like this one. No, absolutely not. Okay, this is the sometimes the disadvantage of using relational model. Relational model is to use, looks like very nice. However, it's not flexible. Okay, sometimes I have the I like to manage customer information. In customer information, sometimes this user have the different characteristics. This user, but in relational database, you need to design exactly same format for all the customers. Right? If only one user has a characteristic of the hobby, okay, you need to create such a column. But all the others should be null data. It's always the space is less performance. In this, you can just add such information. However, in your magnitude program level, you need to consider. Okay? To simplify such a procedure, we need to have no SQL. No SQL means it's not opposite of SQL. It's kind of not only SQL. Okay? It's more flexible data structure. Much more flexible data structure. So we will discuss more about such the characteristic. So don't be confused. Such a header file HDFS, even though you transfer from here to here, from the relational database, they lose such a constraint. Okay? It's more flexible. Okay? So this is the feature of the characteristic of the scope. This is Java based. The reasonable because all the Hadoop system, HDFS, and the MapReduce are based on the Java, so it's the JDBC-based implementation. Yes.
That's why, Professor, we just transfer loose data for analysis.
You can transfer data for analysis, or you can. Some people use the Hadoop system as a just backup. I think the topic mentioned about that. So nowadays, because it's the cheap, and sometimes you want to use the backup data for just a simple processing. So at the time you can use the header as a backup, or it can be used for analysis. Also it can be used for existing data warehousing system. Okay, for the OLAP solution. Okay. By denormalizing. So OLAP is one kind of the data warehousing solution, data mining solution, but it's different from the data mining. So you can use such a header system for OLAP.
So I can use it for store the data and retrieve data, right?
You can retrieve the data. That retriever is different from the relational data. Even though that's one of the common mistake or the confusing part. So even though you are going to use the SQL size, like from where for Hadoop system, it doesn't mean it's the relational database system model. Okay, only interface. Okay, outlook is the SQL style. Inside, your SQL will be converted into MapReduce program. Bunch of MapReduce program.
Does that mean, Professor, Hadoop will in future may replace the relational database?
Some part we can replace. However, I don't think the Hadoop can replace OLTP, online transaction. Okay, for example, stock market trading. So I need to access the system and buy the stock faster than others, right? So 0.111 second is very important. Okay. So at the time, if you are using this Hadoop system, I don't think so. So not all application can be replaced by the Hadoop. I don't think so. Some part that can get the benefit of the Hadoop system. Okay. So big data system, Hadoop system is not the magic solution. Definitely not. You need to understand each part, each kind of application can be replaced by such a handle, which are not. Because here, relational database model will be the first leading the data structure database.
It has its own limitations.
So this is the key feature. Also, you can integrate easily for Hive. You don't know what is a Hive yet? We will see about simply Hive. I think when I introduced the Hadoop ecosystem, Hive is the interface because many people know how to use the select from where instead of complicated MapReduce program. So Hive provides the SQL style interface. Instead of defining the HDFS file, you can from such a Shakespeare or whatever, then you provide the color information. Okay? So easily integrate with the Hive. Okay? So this is the scoop architecture of the straightforward. So this is a client part, this is the source of your data, especially for relational database model or the specific database model, and this is your Hadoop HDFS. So from the Hadoop command you can ask, actually there will be the MapReduce program, and inside the MapReduce programming there is the JDBC part to connect the data remote database and retrieve the data and transfer the data and put into your HDFS file. Okay, that's it. Then the scoop to in later, because this is very nice work. So it can simplify a lot of workflow to transfer the data. It will take out some part of the MapReduce program part, especially to manage the resource or the user interface or the connection part, because database connection is only for the scoop part. It's not the general MapReduce program, even though it's not directly related to the MapReduce. So they try to pick up some more information. Also, what if in source database is the transaction ID column and someone constraint? We keep such a data, such an information as a metadata. Okay? Then later we can use, even though in Hadoop HDFS is just one comma whatever bunch of data, using such a metadata, we can realize this is a transaction ID. Transaction ID is less than 6 bytes, something like that. Okay? So in next version of the scoop, they will separate metadata information and resource management for the database connection. But you don't have to worry about it, as long as you should be able to use it. And what if this is import from external database to the HDFS? I'd like to export. So I have to command separate the transition of this process, this output. But some of the user, customer, they try to use such an output from online transaction. You don't want to open such a map HDFS to the public. At that time, you can export such a data to original data source database. Okay, that is the export. You can export using JDBC. Using the JDBC, you can insert the data, right? So it's not big. Yes.
So once the data is exported, it will go back to the HDFS command.
In HDFS,
No, it's not in the
yes. At that time, when you generate such a output of your data, you should consider the format of your. So you can actually specify the column. The first comma is for the transaction ID, second comma is something like that.
Using scoop.
Yes. This is an example of the importing. So this is a screenshot shows the MySQL. Okay. So in your exercise lab, in your virtual machine, the MySQL is already stored. It has the data, so you are going to use the MySQL. As long as you can use one of the relational database model, relational database management system, it's not a big deal. You know you never use the MySQL, it's not really difficult. It's almost the same. So you write import scoop command, import, either import or export the data, connect string. It's the same as connect string used in the database, right? So it has the data in database type, MySQL or Oracle or Informix, and this IP address of your the database system and the database name and table that you want to export is by the table, but you can import the entire database or by user and username and password. That's it. Then it will be looks like the raw information of MapReduce program. Actually, when you submit the scope, your MapReduce program will be run. Then it's imported. The 326 records are imported to as the HDFS file. So if you go to if you use the HDFS command like the list of, you can see file and log information can change. And export is the software. So you can export the table, folder, and the screen, and what kind of file you want to export is the path of HDFS, not local file path. So user, group, and orders will be exported to the orders under the screen in the ACIP database. Okay, like this one. You can use the hybrid. Hybrid can be used for this group. So what is a hybrid? Hybrid is just the interface that implement SQL style. So for example, in the hybrid, you can, it looks like the show tables is the MySQL interface. Then you can actually describe. Describe is the command to list of the column and the data type. So like this one. So actually, what is the file? There is no table like the orders. Actually, it's a file name of HDFS. And they have there's an order file in HDFS. And outside there is a hive. So hive will create MapReduce program to access this data. So using select this option, access the HDFS file as if you are accessing the table in relational database. And from is the difference from the scope is from use the just the non-relational database model or the log file. Okay? So mostly it's a log data. Then log data. So there is a it's kind of the distributed data collection service. Okay, so which means there is an agent for each source of the data, and also there is a collector. Okay, it's a kind of the component, which means that there are many agents. Then one collector gets the data, collector will send the data to the HDFS. So you can actually design like that. So one collector manages the agent from the data source. This is from the data source, and send the data to the collector, and collector manage the collected the data sent by the agent to HDFS file. So there are two tiers: agent tier from the data source, and the storage tier is HDFS, and the middle is a collector. So there are core concepts that you can understand. So why don't you go ahead at class? It's not very difficult. So it's quite similar as a network concept of a network, and the sink and the source and sink and channel. Okay, like the network. How to use such a flow? It's not just the source and agent and HDFS. Sometimes this collector can be disabled. There's a design of there's such a thing like this one, we can make the sparrow. Sometimes you have more data source, so at the time automatically add the collector and the kind of design of the database. You can manage such a data source. Sometimes the data source may be disabled, and where there is overload, then we can assign more the collector. Something like that. There's an interface. And also, if you need near real time, okay? There's no real time, really real time, but it may be possible near real time the service. If you the data transfer time is the critical, so you can design even such a thing. Cloudera also support both the scoop and the flow. Yes.
Excuse me, before we move this one, so once we have the big data here after we report it from the application database, so there is any way to secure that database? Because sometimes
Secure the imported data or
So it's
imported
gonna be
data.
a
Security is a different problem. Okay, we are not going to touch the security part. But anyway, the security problem in the Hadoop system is very important nowadays for the enterprise level system. So yes.
In the snapshot you showed us when you are exporting, it has a username and password. I think that's a
Yes, that's the one of the problem. So, but that is the just naive way, the simplest way to use the scoop. Okay, so let's have the 5-minute break. The data part is almost the same. The contents of what we have discussed. So after class, why don't you quickly go ahead to the scoop and the flow from the powder. It shows the little details about it. I believe you can understand this part, like the command, scoop, and import or export. Import or table, list the table. It means just list of the table. And connect string, the name and password, and so on. And you can specify table. Even you can specify the condition. Okay. Not very complicated. In your Java JDBC tool, you can just add a dynamic program. And you can export. There's a help command. Okay. Then you will do the exercise lab, the next class. I'm not sure the next class is when the next class. Okay. So don't support the near real time. So this is the concept of the problem.
the flow for streaming data. Flow
Yes.
for streaming data.
Yes, streaming data from the data source. So if you set up the channel, they keep sending the data.
I use Python to do
Yes.
this.
That's it. Then after the short break, we will discuss our NoSQL database.